Hi everyone, I'm Ashwati Chinat with Mandala Arts. I am here today to have a chat with Subhi, who will be featured as a part of Mandala Makers Festival tomorrow at 7 p.m. And we are excited to talk to Subhi, who is based here in Chicago. She is a wonderful songwriter and vocalist who's been getting a lot of press lately. And she will be featured alongside Chetan Ananth tomorrow as part of the festival. Chetan is also a local musician and is an incredibly talented Bansuri artist as well as a vocalist. And you can catch them tomorrow at 7. The Mandala Makers Festival is now in its third year. This is all virtual. You can learn more about the festival at makersfestival.mandalaarts.org. And it's so important that you tune in to these performances live. It's as close as we can get to the real thing. And it's so important that you support these artists as well. You can make donations at the festival site and also receive links to the performances so you can tune in at your own pace. And Subhi's here, so I am going to invite her into our chat. Hi, Subhi. Can you see me? Hi, thank you for
Hi,
joining me
Ashwati.
today.
Thanks so much for having me. So
We're
nice to see you.
You as well. I know it's this is as good as we can do right now.
I know, right? Thanks to COVID.
Thank you, COVID. Yeah, and in Chicago, we've been blessed with a really nice week. So this seems even less engaging than it has during the winter. We can connect with nature again and enjoy some sun and such.
Totally, totally. This has been a good week, although I hear the weekend is going to be crazy again, but we'd enjoy this as much as we can. I know.
Yes, which is why we should all tune into your performance on Friday because rainy day music, right?
Totally, totally. Yes, that will be really nice to have everyone join in and hear all my new stuff. So that'll be really cool.
Yes. So Subi, what have you been kind of processing during the pandemic in terms of songwriting? You've been in isolation. Do you usually work with people in your space, or are you more of like a private creator?
Yeah, so I usually like work with producers. I like usually go to studios and I work with musicians and um it was really hard when COVID started because we were all kind of in a lockdown and I had to figure out ways of working at home and
Yeah.
figure out my whole home setup and then send files remotely, which was another way of learning how to work. And so I actually really enjoy like being with people in the same room. I think the synergy really helps drive my creativity, so I miss that.
Yeah.
um but I think that the plus is that because of the pandemic, I have been able to work with producers in Nashville, in India, in UK that I wouldn't have at all thought about or been able to do, and if it wasn't, because everyone's working from home right now.
That's really exciting. Were these new creative partners new to you? Did you know them prior to the pandemic?
No. So some of them I did not know. I met some through workshops that I did. There's a Nashville based workshop that I looked up online and I just joined it because I thought I'd learn something from it, and that's where I met one of the producers. Another is the publishing company that I'm associated with. They did a virtual sing camp that I became a part of. And so I worked with artists in Mexico, in Israel, in UK, and then I was from US. So it was really amazing. So yeah.
That is so cool. So a virtual sing camp, it's a sing camp, I heard correctly.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you all are, sharing each other's different walks of life and creative work. Is it also multilingual? Are you all singing from your is it English predominantly, or are you singing in multiple languages?
Yeah, it was English, and we got a brief, and we all have to. English, I think, was the universal language, so we got a brief, and then we all work on that in English. So that was our main language. And I think, like, with working with producers in India, this last year was the first year I worked with producers in India, and I worked on both Hindi and English stuff. So that was really cool. And I worked with a producer in LA on some of my Hindi stuff as well. So that was really cool.
Very cool. So when you work with producers that are not in India, are they used to working in different languages? Is that kind of a barrier at times?
Yeah, so I think the producers in LA are definitely not used to working in any language. I mean, they're only used to working in English. So it was interesting to get them on board. I actually worked with three separate producers on a couple of different Hindi songs. So I think it was an interesting experience for them. And for me, it's been very normal to do that, because even
Yeah.
in Chicago, I've worked with musicians who don't know Hindi, and they're on board for my song. So
Yeah.
it was kind of cool. Like, for me, it was very normal, but for them, I'm sure it was an experience.
Right. We're constantly in this process of translation and explaining, what we're trying to express culturally. So yeah, I completely empathize with that. Um,
Yeah.
do you have a favorite collaboration from this past year?
Oh, that's a tricky one. I would say, like, right. I mean, I think the sync camps are what I'm really loving. I just took part in a second sync camp, and that was between India, UK, and US. And it's so cool because I've never met these guys. I wouldn't have known about them. It wasn't for the sync camp. I met this UK based producer through the sync camp, and now we are also working individually on projects together. So it's kind of like I just made a new friend, and we are doing our own thing outside of the camp. So I would say, like, that's been my most favorite moment right now, just meeting and working with people from all over the world.
That's very exciting. And also you're about to leave us, right? You're leaving Chicago soon.
Yeah, I mean, so my plan is to move to LA. I was planning to move last year, and then, of course, everything went haywire with the pandemic. So that's the plan. That next year I will move to LA. I don't exactly know when. I think it'll just depend on how things are, and I think if everyone's working remotely, part of next year as well, then it won't make sense to move. But I think once things get back to normal, whatever the normal is, I'd like to give that a shot.
Yeah, it sounds like you're doing a lot of good groundwork for being um, in many places at once. Like you're leaving all of this stuff that you've been cultivating over 11 years in Chicago.
No, I moved to Chicago in 2012, so this would be my ninth ninth
Ninth year.
beginning of ninth year. But I didn't start performing and meeting musicians until 2016. So I would say, like, maybe 4 years, 5 years. Yeah, so still pretty new.
Um, sorry, my dog is here. He wants to say hi.
That's cool. That's cool.
um, yeah, so what are you processing, I guess, in terms of how does the pandemic influence what you're writing?
Um, I mean, in general, when I write English songs, they're usually on the darker end. So
Yeah.
I would say the pandemic obviously helped in writing darker songs, because I was by myself.
Yeah.
I did release a song Cage last year, which worked really well in the sense that we were all caged in a way, and it's a Hindi song. and I worked with an LA-based producer on it. So that song I think resonated with a lot of people because it talked about
Yes.
how we're all caged. Um, my debut English EP is actually releasing next Friday, and one of the songs on it is called "By the Window" that I worked with a Nashville-based producer on. And that song is literally it is a pandemic song because the song really talks about me looking outside my window and seeing people. That's my only way of communicating with people.
Yeah.
And so I think the pandemic has definitely affected the way I write, because it's also the way I'm viewing the world, right? Because I'm not interacting with people that much. It's through our phones. And so I would say like my writing is also geared towards that. I think as artists we tend to observe things around us and
Yes.
use that in our works. So I think in terms of my writing, it has definitely affected my moods and the way I
Mhm.
look at life right now, for sure.
I think, yeah, I think this idea of being caged is, I'm seeing this pop up a lot in many artists' work, regardless of whether we're using a verbal language to express it. I actually did a dance piece where I tried to dance between a chair and a table and to create choreography where I had very limited
Wow, that's really
movement.
cool.
Yeah, but that's how we're feeling. So,
Yeah, I totally hear you. And I think it's something which all of us are going through. I mean, I think as artists we can express it through our works, which I think thankfully other people can relate to, because it's become such a
yes,
universal
we
thing.
are actually having this universal experience right now. I mean, it's a traumatic one, but you know, there is this ability to relate to one another in a way we haven't before. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Subhi, I'm curious about your journey in music. Like, I know that you mentioned that you have opera training, but you're coming from India, so like, what is this experience of engaging with Western music and incorporating it into
Yeah,
your
so
work?
I don't have training in opera music per se, but I was trained by an opera singer. So
I see.
a lot of the techniques in breath and in
Mhm.
enhancing your voice, like that training was what he used in his opera, when as a singer. So I think I got a lot of tips from him on how to enhance my voice or throughout my voice.
Yeah.
And I think it really helped me because in 2017, 2018, and 2019, I did a lot of live shows. And the idea was to be able to enhance your voice irrespective of the mic. And I think
Mhm.
that's something that opera is like big in. And so I learned how to throw my voice out, how to project it in a way. So I think that kind of training I've gotten by an opera singer who's Chicago based.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, did you have classical Indian music training prior?
Yeah, so when I was growing up in Delhi in India, I did get training in Hindustani classical. I had 8 years of training, and then I moved to the US, and that whole training stopped. And
Yes.
then it was like I was part of my English music choir, and then in New York, I was taking lessons from a Broadway teacher, also with the same concept, right? In theater, it's all about projecting your voice and
Mhm.
singing from your stomach. So I learned all that stuff, which is so different from Hindustani classical music. And I think like all these different teachers have really impacted the way I sing. I think they've really impacted my style, my techniques have really been impacted by the various teachers. Because in New York, I had this Broadway teacher. In Chicago, I had like an opera vocal coach, and in India, of course, Hindustani classical. So it's been a nice melting pot of lots of different styles of music.
Absolutely. And also you get to incorporate all of these techniques, you know, at one time. I mean, you're never going to learn Hindustani vocal techniques from someone who's been trained in opera or musical theater. And
Totally.
I mean, you have a huge toolbox.
Yeah, I'd like to believe I do. Yeah, but it's really cool. I think, and I'm sure you would probably relate to this too, right? Like being in India and learning music is a whole other experience, or learning any art is an experience. And then when you move to another country, then you kind of learn so much from that culture, and I think it only makes you rich as an artist because now you can
Absolutely.
pull from different places and kind of fuse them together to make your own style. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know many pop artists that are of Indian origin. I think, I mean, you're very unique in that. I mean, growing up in this country, a lot of my peers who are musicians go into a genre that um, that already exists. There's an infrastructure for, whether it's classical Indian music or musical theater or Western classical music or jazz. But pop is like in many ways creating your own genre. Like you're responding to what is around you and like really creating out of your own experience. So that's very challenging. And so I have a lot of respect for your journey that way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's been an interesting one. I've been shuffling between genres as I try to figure out my own sound. And I mean, Chicago is so rich with jazz and blues, and I had a chance to pick up from that and dive into pop and take some of that with me as I write my songs in pop. And it's pretty cool to be able to do that here. That there are so many genres and you can learn and I guess develop your own style.
Yeah, absolutely. That, I mean, I think that's the best way to look at it, that you have access to these opportunities to learn so many different styles and from masters, and it's a blessing to be able to do that and create something from those experiences. So
Yeah, totally.
what in Chicago, what do you miss about live performance?
What do you mean? Like right
uh,
now or?
no, not now, but like prior to the pandemic, like you've done a lot of gigs in Chicago. Do you have a favorite collaboration or a favorite memory of performing live?
Um, yeah, so I'd say like I did TEDx a few years ago, and that was huge. That was nerve-wracking. It was like 1,000 people sitting in the audience. I think that's like the biggest show I've done, and it was such an honor to speak and perform at TEDx. But it was I also collaborated with jazz musicians for my set, so it was like a 20-minute set where I spoke and then I had an original song. I had an original song. So I would say like that was one of my favorite moments. And I also love performing at Old Town School of Folk Music. I love their theater. I love their space, and the audience is very receptive. So I would say those two have been my favorite venues, favorite times to perform.
Yeah, TEDx is big.
Yeah, TEDx was like insane. I mean, when I went to start talking, I went on stage and I saw like it was so packed, and I was just like, oh my God, I hope I can pull this off. It was crazy. And I think the only other one where I've done like a big show was Navy Pier, because every summer I would perform at Navy Pier, and Navy Pier it's very casual, but it's also really fun. And a lot of people would pass by and people would
Yeah.
come and ask you, oh, is that Hindi or what language is that? And I always found that so cool because then it's like they're interested in your culture, and that's really nice to know. So
Yeah, I think when you perform in kinds of in public spaces where lots of people pass through, that can, including tourists, like you get a different engagement with your work where people are, I think, in that mode of like taking it in, observing, learning, like an educational kind of perspective. So it is nice to know that your audience members are engaged in that way.
yeah, totally. I think it feels nice, to know that they are. So it's always a plus.
Yes. Okay, well, our time is up. I really appreciate you sharing all of these things that you've been going through and highlights. It sounds like lots of good things have happened.
Yes, hopefully this will be a good year for everyone.
I hope so too. Vaccinations on the rise and warmer months
Yes,
ahead. Everyone's
warmer months, non-mask days. I hope they're all coming.
someday, yes.
I know, right? I
Well,
know.
we look forward to hearing you tomorrow. I hope all of you that are here tune in to see Subhi and your amazing home studio. The setup is fantastic.
Thanks so much, Ashwati. I really enjoyed the, just setting up my space, and this would actually be the first performance with my new space. So
Oh,
I'm super
wow.
excited. Yeah, like I've been learning a lot of new things, and I'm so glad that I can do that all for your festival, and so I'm kind of like debuting a whole new sound and a whole new vibe, and actually a whole set of new songs. So I'm super excited.
Whoa, we're honored to
Uh,
have you share all of that with us.
yeah,
Thank
I'm
you.
super excited too, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity. I know we are all, not really meeting in person, but it's just amazing to still get these opportunities and to be able to share our work. So I'm really honored and super excited about it.
Thank you. We're grateful that we can offer this space for you right now. So thank you so much for being
Awesome.
a part of it. And good and congratulations on releasing your EP next week.
Yes, yes, that's exciting. It's coming up. So, yeah, so I'll be debuting some of the songs from the EP that no one's ever heard. It's all going to be tomorrow. So I hope people can check it out.
Yes, please check it out. Okay, everyone. See Subi at Mandala Makers Festival tomorrow evening at 7. You can register to receive the virtual performance directly to your email at makersfestival.mandalaarts.org. And please follow Subi, love Subi, listen to her
Oh,
work.
thank you, Ashwati. That's so sweet. And thanks to Mandala Arts for having me on board. Thanks for this interview, and I'm genuinely very excited about tomorrow, about the opportunity to perform live and showcase all my new work. So thank you.
Thank you. Bye, all.
Bye.